I was raised by the wolves.
All right, folks, got to cut that intro short. This is an emergency podcast. Will, the drama is over. Bailey Hockman had decided to transfer. How do you feel about that?
Wait, we're not going to talk about Cam Hayes and not being in on the final drives? No. An era has ended. An era of message board bitching has ended. Bailey, I'm sad to see it go because he's a really, really good backup quarterback and definitely an insurance policy. But dude wants to play, and I hope he finds a good landing spot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him. I think this was inevitable. You can't keep two guys who have won games as starters. I just think that's just not likely in this day and age. Where do you think he ends up? Like, what kind of program?
I was thinking while I was driving earlier that he would be a good quarterback at like a Duke. Low expectations rate, good quarterback, mentor, coach, that can keep his head up. Still opportunity to play at this level. Maybe like a Vanderbilt. I don't know. I mean, he's not going to. I mean, I guess I'd be surprised if he shows up somewhere similar in the pecking order as of NC State right now, just based on how his season ended. I guess you could drop down to the G5 level and maybe find a landing spot at one of the better programs down there. I don't know. I mean, just his numbers aren't horrible, but they're not great either, which makes me think maybe go down a level and he could succeed.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think Duke's probably an interesting one. I mean, obviously he's better than Chase Bryce.
Well, he's transferring out.
Yeah, and Chase Bryce is gone, right? So, but I was just using that comparison. Like Duke, he'd be an upgrade at Duke. I was thinking like Marshall, or Marshall's kind of quarterback, but a program like that, or even a JMU. I think he's better than FCS. Probably G5 quarterback. There's gonna be some opportunities out there for him.
Well, you think that new head coach at Marshall might
teaser
maybe be interested in him? Who knows?
We'll get to that one. Ty Evans went to Texas State, and so I think your range is probably above Texas State. And so where does that put him? I'm not sure. I think it's an interesting dynamic. Because he was good against bad teams, and then against good teams he wasn't great.
What's I guess ECU? Do they still have Ehlers or whatever?
Yeah, they still have Ehlers for another year, I believe.
I was thinking like maybe what's a local program? Hey, what about your fighting Will Healy's?
Oof,
Charlotte. Could he land at Charlotte? I'm curious if he wants to stay relatively local, right? He's a Georgia boy. So maybe that restricts his footprint a little bit. There's plenty of schools to choose from.
Right.
Who knows, man? It's too early to tell. I was just trying to get back.
It's wild to think about because he was all over the place. I was talking to Henderson earlier, and I told him, I said, I feel bad for you, James. Your clicks are about to be cut in half because there's going to be no more debates about Leary or Hockman.
I think the Kentucky game did that.
Well, his response was "Stay tuned," so I don't know what that means, but he thinks he's going to end up at a P5 program. I'm just not as confident in that. I think he ends up probably at a G5 mid-level G5 program.
Could he end up at like a Rutgers? You know what I mean? There's plenty of not great P5 programs that he could end up at. And the other thing too is, I mean, if I'm him, maybe he can be a little picky. I don't know if he can really. I don't know really what the status of quarterbacks in the portal is right now. But if he could find a place that has a decent O-line, or I mean, is he someone that might do better in like a spread, like a true spread offense, right? Like, I mean, he's accurate. He showed, he's good enough to hit those short and intermediate routes, right, this season. So scheme is going to be important, and unless he just has like a destination in mind.
Air raid style, Mississippi State comes back to Carter Finley next year.
What am I saying? Hey, they got to replace Trevor Lawrence, man. I was
to Clemson.
Yeah, I was thinking like if he ended up at Mississippi State, right? Like, wouldn't that just be?
That will be so.
That would be the hottest game ever, though, right? Because we play them next season, right?
Yeah, we do. I don't know what they're going to do about scheduling, if they're going to move it here or there, or what. It's supposed to be there, I believe, because they're supposed to be here this year.
Yeah, I wonder.
But
oh God, Leach.
All right, so here's the next question around Bailey Hockman. Does Bailey Hockman, or does NC State go after a transfer portal quarterback?
Yes, God, I hope so. Obviously Finley must be really good enough for Bailey to be threatened to leave. But that's a joke. Here's what I would ask: if you can find any guy that is an absolute actual dual threat. Like, I kind of wish we could have got that Georgia Southern guy.
Oh, I was going to say. Yeah.
But, give me someone that you basically say, like, look, I want someone who's extremely mobile, that we can basically say, like, no matter what, we're going to find packages for you throughout the game. We have seen with Leary, even though he opens up a lot of the field, there's still, UVA and Duke. There were still some bog downs, right? So maybe you get someone that can come in and either be, a red zone guy, short yardage back, or, just a true backup. But I would love to see, it kind of boggles my mind. Like, why have we not been recruiting pure mobile quarterbacks? That's clearly the key of the college game. So maybe, find someone like that. I don't care if they're super limited. I just want someone that can come in and, do RPO and actually be a true threat to run the ball.
What about the guy that everybody's going to mention? And I guess we got to talk about it. Hendon Hooker, Virginia Tech quarterback from North Carolina. We recruited him a lot previously. Connection to Charlie Wiles. He runs.
He would have to be having a terrible experience in the transfer portal to end up here, in my opinion. Like, first off, I don't know why they were playing Burmeister and these other guys at VT. I think Hooker was a better quarterback out of that group. If you got a guy like Hooker, obviously, like, if you're NC State, you feel pretty damn good about your quarterback room, but he wants to go somewhere to start, and I guess I would just be surprised if he would look at a room with Devin Leary in it and Aaron McLaughlin in it, and and just be like, okay, that makes sense for me to go there. There's plenty of snaps and plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'd be fantastic, right? You get a running quarterback in Beck's system. And I thought he was good at Virginia Tech. I agree with you. I thought he was the better quarterback. But he won them some games. I don't see that happen. I think he's going to go to a place where he can play.
Yeah, he throws over 60% percentage, right? In 2019 he had 13-2. This year he had 9-5. But he came back, and that program is kind of a mess. My dad texts me every other week about how he can't wait for Justin Fuente to be fired. And my dad's not like hardcore VT fan, you know what I mean? So maybe he just wants to find a better program to be a part of. But I keep imagining Hooker as a guy that goes to an SEC school or Big 12 school, or somewhere like that.
Yeah, agreed. He's definitely above the pecking order, above Hockman in the pecking order. Right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Hockman ended up with 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. How many yards did he throw for? Do you have that up?
It's like 2,000 something.
2,000 yards. Given what we saw of him last year, it was a huge step up, and, thankful for him. but I think this was almost inevitable. Right. I'm very glad to be wrong about my. Well, I'm going to put this in. I'm going to put this in. I don't know. Disclaimer by this one. I'm glad to be wrong about Leary not or transferring. Right. Because it's likely that he's not going anywhere now because he's going to be the starter.
Oh, thank Jesus. I mean, you can build around him. He's predictable. I mean, you mentioned it, right? I mean, Hockman improved from last year to this year. So I'm glad. I mean, if everyone says, like, I got a text from somebody and they're like, don't let the door hit you on the way out or whatever. And I was like, I mean, the dude did win us, 5 games this year? 6? No, let's see. Larry had 2,
6. Yeah.
5, and then half. Yeah. So, like, that's pretty damn good for a backup quarterback. So I don't see why anyone's like, wishing him poorly or happy to see him go. Like, he was a good backup quarterback, and we have aspirations to be more than just a 7 or 8 win team, and Bailey's not going to be a part of that unless he just wants to be a contributor, right? So, I wish his touchdown to interception ratio had stayed a little bit better looking from the last game to this one. But I mean, we were talking before, I kind of feel like that Kentucky game plan maybe was not the brightest Beck game plan as far as maximizing Hockman. We'll just leave that there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's, we touched on it before. Beck's, you can kind of see a little bit why Ohio State fans and Texas fans were frustrated with Beck. Like, he did a lot of good here, but I start to see a little bit of why they complained, right? I think there was some questionable play calling and maybe game planning.
Well, I felt like we came out the gate hot in most games. It just felt like Kentucky, it just felt like it was an exhibition and they were just kind of seeing what they had in some spots. Like, Penix had more passes in this game, I think, than in the last 6. We saw Lassane out there. We saw Riley out there. We saw a bunch of different formations. So maybe I'm just wondering if the staff was kind of like, man, we're not going to win this game. Like, we got nobody on defense. They're going to run it all over us. Let's just see what we got on offense and start planning for next year. Maybe that was the mindset, because it just didn't seem like that game just seemed like not like anyone that he had called earlier in the season, I guess. It kind of reminded me of VT where, let me just say this.
Yeah, good.
But it kind of reminded me of VT where we were like, why are they asking Hockman to make these throws? Why is this game plan so different from Wake after it was so successful? And then next week we saw Leary, and part of me just thought, Doran wanted to see what this guy was capable of, and then he saw it, and that was the end of that discussion.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were doing that with some of these guys. Sorry.
Part of me wonders if you go back and look at the snap counts in that game, in the play counts, if that was any indication of who is leaving and more around the skill positions. Like, Angeline was not part of the game plan. Ricky Person really wasn't part of the game plan. All these guys that there have been hints about or just flat out said they're leaving, going pro or some other. Right. And then you see guys like Jordan Houston get extra snaps, Keon Lassane get the ball a few times. Like, just some things we didn't see all year. I wonder how much of that was, getting them reps or kind of a glimpse of the future, or, I don't know. I thought that was I'm with you. I thought it was a bit odd. It was definitely a little bit different.
Yeah. Or maybe they just did not know how to attack that vicious Kentucky defense. I don't know.
Yeah. Somebody in chat asked a question. Had Ben Finley gotten the last few game reps, right? So you put Finley in for whatever those last couple of games were. Do we win that game?
I mean, Who knows? I guess
I thought it was a good question. Yeah.
The issue with Ben, right? Like we said it going into that UNC game, or at least I said it to you. I was like, he's going to have a limited playbook, and I don't know how much that playbook in his abilities to comprehend what he's seeing out there jumps if he's playing Georgia Tech and was it Syracuse? Is that the last two games?
Yeah.
And I mean, first off, I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't think we win with him. No, I mean, that team just looked. Man, we just stunk that day. I think Leary would have lost the way like the offense was operating. Like everyone was just so freaking lackluster. No, I'm just saying like if you just stuck him in there, that whole game just felt like meh, like not really trying on offense. You know what I mean? So maybe they would have called a completely different game if they actually had Devin. But yeah, I've almost like deleted that game from my brain at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I'd be curious if they bring in, another quarterback. Like I can see it both ways. I honestly don't know what the right thing to do is. I think you probably want an experienced backup. So if I'm in an ideal world, right, you get the best player you can. But I think in a scenario where you don't want a competition, I think most fans don't want a competition with Leary. They don't want anybody who's going to give Dave an excuse to play anybody other than Devin Leary. Like you don't want a guy in there who's safe. He doesn't turn the ball over and just a repeat of what we've seen before. So if I'm drawing out what I want in a transfer quarterback, if they're going to take one, I think you look for like an FCS guy or a G5 guy that wants to keep playing, maybe not good enough to make it to the next level. So he doesn't have those aspirations. Maybe wants to be a coach, somebody with experience that can come in behind Leary and help him out, right? Take some reps from him, but also like help him learn, and grow more. I mean, that might be a pipe dream, but that's kind of what I would look for. It's got to be somebody out there a quarterback that wants to get into coaching and but still want to play a little bit more. I think there's probably something like that out there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. I mean, like, worst case scenario, maybe you end up with a guy like I can't remember what his name is that transferred from Wisconsin to Florida State. Was it Hornibrook or something like that? But someone who's fine at like a Big 10 or Big 12 level, but is practically in all understanding coming in to be the backup. Like I said, I just find someone that does something different so that if you've got to throw this person in there for a game or two, it's, it's new tape, right? It's make sure they bring something different. I mean, if you just want a body, I mean, there's plenty of those. Like I said, I don't even know. I guess, is there like a link to the portal? I guess I'm curious now to see like what quarterbacks are even in there.
I'm sure one of the sites has a mock transfer portal that they're putting in there. I just follow the Rivals portal on Twitter, and they just tweet out everything that goes in.
Yeah, they do.
There's a lot of guys that are young and maybe unproven. I've seen a lot of redshirt freshmen, sophomores transferring out because they're behind somebody else. I haven't seen too many experienced and established quarterbacks yet. It's pretty anecdotal, I know, but yeah.
But no, I mean that's kind of what you expect, right? Right. I mean, we need to bring in somebody because you're going to have Leary, Finley, and McLaughlin, and I think we have seen before, right? Like they view 2021 as an opportunity to strike at Clemson. Now, maybe they're being a little overly optimistic based on what we just saw in the Kentucky game, but if you lose Leary and then you're down to Finley, McLaughlin, like, you're back in, you're not necessarily in the 2019 season situation again, but you're not in a very good spot. So you got to have somebody. That's why, man, I mean, there has got to be somebody at like a James Madison or, somewhere at that level that wants an opportunity to compete. I mean,
yeah, I'm with you. I think I guess we should have let this podcast off with Trevor Lawrence is going pro. So
oh man, I'm so surprised.
that's the real emergency podcast. Yeah,
Is
the
he going to
real
shave
big
his
shocker.
mustache?
Oh god, that was so embarrassing.
Oh
I felt so bad for him.
He earned it. That mustache was terrible. As soon as I saw that, I turned to my girlfriend. I was like, "They're losing." Ooh, this dude is not taking this game seriously. If he rolled out looking like a freak, I mean, he looked like a ghost catfish out there. That mustache is so bad.
Ghost catfish.
Just can't.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think this was kind of inevitable. I'm just glad it worked out this way rather than the other way. The other bit of news, which we kind of alluded at, and it's not really news yet, but speculation. Stephen Gottfried, who is well connected and doesn't usually put things out there just to put things out there. And he tweeted out yesterday, I expect the conversations between Marshall and NC State's defensive coordinator, Tony Gibson, to be, I forgot what he said, productive or lucrative or something like that. Essentially hinting at Gibson, who is a Marshall alumni and from West Virginia, to be the guy that they want to hire to replace Doc Holliday in one of the weirdest firings of this coaching season.
I still cannot even believe.
Like the governor, for those that don't know, the governor of West Virginia, who's a Marshall alumni, went above the athletic director and fired Doc Holliday. Like such a weird.
By the way,
such a weird one. I don't know.
Gibson went to Glenville State, but he has a ton, which might even be in West Virginia. But he is born and bred West Virginian. That's a big factor here.
Okay. Interesting though. So hypothetical, and this is weird. I'm not sure how I feel about this because I'll give Gibson credit. We railed on him early in the year, but given there was no offseason, no install time, the defense really got better by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Now, how much of that is playing hot garbage offenses? I don't know, but
yeah, I can tell you how much it is. It's a big factor.
Yeah. So hypothetical, Tony Gibson leaves, goes to West Virginia. Who does NC State go after for defensive coordinator?
What did I tell you? Like, what did I text you immediately? I was like, Charlie Strong season or whatever. I was like, I mean, that would be a home run if you could get him, right? I mean, if you're going to look, Dave seemed insistent about this 3-3-5 thing. Nothing would delight me more to go back to like the 4-2-5 or something, just so it's something that we could eliminate one more argument, but then that would bring back the 4-3 nonsense. I think I don't know if someone was joking or not, but someone was like, oh, someone should reach out to the Cincinnati defensive coordinator. And if I recall correctly, isn't Fickle calling the defense there?
No, Marcus Freeman is the Cincinnati DC who is on everybody's short list. So there's, and I mean everybody, LSU, Notre Dame. He was on the Texas short list. They just hired somebody, but everybody wants him. The Cincinnati defense has been so good this year. They run a 3-3-5, and like he's going. I would assume LSU he's from Louisiana or somewhere down there. Somewhere down there.
Yeah, I would say. What's interesting is Gibson is a recruiter, and very active at recruiting, which is something that actually I thought was going to start really paying dividends. So it would suck if he takes this job. I guess there's a couple things, right? I can't remember what his salary is here, but the Marshall, I think Doc Holliday was only getting paid like $750,000 or something.
Yeah,
Marshall, And coming off of COVID, right, you've got all kinds of revenue hits across the board. I'm curious what a G5 can offer from a salary perspective, a coaching pool, a coach's pool perspective. And I do wonder if Tony or someone like that would be looking at that and be like, okay, well, I am a little bit nervous about the stability of these lower tier colleges, but Marshall has its history, and I'm not going to get into all that. So I guess it's not just losing a coordinator; it's also losing probably one of the most active recruiters on the staff between him and Beck and Goebel, I guess.
Yeah, Goebel will be the one. See, that would be the problem, right? If you do lose your defensive coordinator, does that cascade into losing other coaches? Goebel is also a Marshall guy. I think Goebel might be the Marshall alumni I was thinking of, but there are other guys there that are tied to Gibson.
Yeah.
Does he take DeForest or Mitchell or one of these other guys? Our defensive backs I thought played pretty well this year.
The only way he could, right, is he'd have to offer one of them like defensive coordinator, right? They're not going to make a lateral move to go, not even a lateral move, right? Lateral position coach move, but drop down a level that,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't see it unless it's a promotion, and then there can you really you can hate on that. I don't.
Someone mentioned Clayton White on the boards. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, so I remember, and maybe you can refresh my memory, that there was he here at some point?
Yes, he was here for like the first 3 or 4 years of Doran's tenure.
And they had some friction, right?
Supposedly. I am guessing. Okay, here's my guess. Well, one, I remember something getting posted about Clayton leaving, or someone being like, "Oh, I want Clayton to come back," and I remember someone being like, "Well, he's not welcome at this high school," like implying that there was some friction with a high school or an area coach or something like that. So maybe that's one factor, but I don't know. There's a part of it that was like he went to Western Kentucky and like ripped off like multiple good defenses, and I wonder if there's a part of him that's like maybe he was anti-Hux and lost out that battle, and maybe that's why there was some beef. I mean, he's like a no-brainer from a NC State perspective.
Yeah.
Broader perspective, right? But he also runs a 4.2, so I mean, again, we don't even have the bodies to run a 4.2 right now. That's the other problem is we're now stuck in the 3-3. So we'd have to pull in some transfers, and I don't feel like we have enough spots to really do that comfortably this year. So then I don't know. Do you find someone from like what's his name, Rocky, from his coaching tree, the guy that did the 3-3-5 at San Diego State?
Rocky Long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell, get Rocky Long, isn't he? He's unemployed at the moment, right?
I mean, bring him in as a consultant. But yeah, I mean, it would be interesting. A defensive coordinator search right now. I mean, I assume Dave will do what he always does, which is he'll look at young up and comers. I'd love to get a Chris Ash or a Ryan Nielsen, someone like that, but they don't seem like they're going to be coming here.
Yeah, Nielsen is not coming back to college, by the way. People have mentioned that before. He has no interest in recruiting. Despite him being good at it and bringing in some of our best defensive linemen, he just doesn't want to do it. So that is not going to happen.
Well, when he allowed Zuniga to go to Florida to get poached from us, I was like, you're dead to me, Nielsen.
I forgot about that. Charlie Strong would be the first one on my list. Now, I get it. It's probably a pipe dream, but he's an analyst at the moment, maybe looking for a redemption tour. He's a 3-3-5 guy. We talked about this early in the season. When we were going on 3-3-5. I read a lot about his 3-3-5 schemes and how disruptive they are and how he's been so successful with them. Like that has to be your first call, right? I don't know if there's any connection with him and Dave, but still got to be your first call.
Well, let's see. He was at Louisville, so I wonder if at any point Northern Illinois or Wisconsin or anyone like cross paths. I was trying to scroll it down. The thing I was thinking about was if you do get a Charlie Strong, Like, not only is it going to be the DC, he's got to get like associate head coach or something like that, right? Like, they'd have to put so many freaking tags on him to make that work. As we're talking, I just keep checking to make sure that Tony Gibson's still on the, on the website, just to be careful.
It's interesting. I'm curious what Boo will do. Like, if this scenario arises, right? Will he give Dave the money to hire Charlie Strong? Right? Will he? How does that work? That's, to me, it's something we don't know because we haven't really seen. I mean, I guess this last staff, he got Tim Beck.
Yeah. I mean, Gibson paid $500K.
Yeah.
Beck is $700K.
Okay.
I think Charlie Strong is going to be like, he's going to be above Beck, I think. Like, he's going to have such a command, I guess, if he wanted for a DC position. He brings you the Florida recruiting. Like, he checks all the boxes. And then it's a matter of, okay, well, then does he want to bring in his own guys? Does that mean you have to get rid of DeForest or any of these guys too? Like, there's some challenges, right?
Yeah.
I want to plug and play, or, how are we going to take care of that situation as well? So maybe, and hell, maybe Gibson's using this as an opportunity to get a raise.
It's true. It's true. It would be weird. I do like staff stability because it's probably still PTSD from the Chuck years. But yeah, if you can bring the other name out there that I think we'd see a lot is Chris Ash, even though he is not technically a 3-3-5 guy, but he and Doran are super close homies.
Well, he's the guy they wanted initially.
Yeah.
Now the thing is does Bielema just fuck us again and take him to Illinois?
No, Bielema just hired Drink's defensive coordinator. He just
really
came from Mizzou. Yeah, like 30 minutes ago.
So now Drink's gonna hire Ash.
Oh God.
After did I send you that thing? Or did you send me that thing about Drink having players, the backup quarterback, dress up as Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah. So if you haven't, I put that on Twitter earlier, but if you haven't listened to Drink's interview on the Yahoo Sports podcast, it's fantastic. He was taking some shots at the ACC, which whatever. But one of the stories he told was the 2018 game where NC State was 6-0, Clemson was 6-0, and he had the scout team quarterback put on a wig and dress up like Trevor Lawrence. And he said Dave Doran and Dave Huxell were so pissed. Like, I would have loved to see that.
See, the thing is, like, I think that's smart. Like, one of the things that that Lawrence does, I mean, his look, people don't think he looks fast. They think he looks goofy. Like, I think you need to get used to seeing stuff like that. He is a strange looking college quarterback. So, and I love the fact that Drink is so much smarter than those two. Enough to be thinking like, hey, let's just, why not?
Yeah, let's have some fun with it. It was funny that Pete Thamel was basically like, yeah, I can totally see Dave Doran, who's pretty boring, not being happy with that. I was like, oh
gosh, yeah,
that's great.
Maybe they're mad because he just didn't run it by him or something like that. But I mean, I'm guessing now the question is, was it Leary? Like, who was simulating?
2018 scout team quarterback. It might have been Leary.
Yeah. So maybe they're mad that their future hopeful is being made to dress up like that. But
I don't know. It's probably nonsense, whatever. Upset about nothing. But I thought it was a pretty interesting story.
Well, we better tell Aaron McLaughlin to grow out his hair now that you sent me that photo. And better tell him, hey, we need a TL.
Aaron McLaughlin is living his best life right now. That's what I'm going to say about that.
Oh, we forgot to mention Grant Gibson was healthy coming out of the bowl game, or didn't tear his.
Yeah. Grant Gibson got his MRI back, and
to distract you from McLaughlin.
Yeah. It was negative, so he had no ligament damage. So who knows what happened to him? But all right, I think that's it. We're rambling at this point. We'll be back in non-emergency fashion at some point. But Bailey Hockman is gone. The drama is maybe over.
Oh God,
possibly. Hopefully,
I'm just thinking, like, right, you bring in Hooker, and then it just starts all over.
That would be par for the course for the Wolfpack. So I fully expect Bailey Hockman to go to Mississippi State, and we'll see him in Carter Finley in 6 months or 8 months.
That would be incredible. No, Sarkisian wants him.
Oh, Texas quarterback Bailey Hockman. Yeah. Disregarding those 2 other 5-stars they have on their bench at the moment.
Hey, man. Yeah. He's a 4-star, but he gives you 5-star effort, man.
5-star culture. 5-star culture. All right, folks. As always, thanks for listening. We will keep you informed as these things unfold. But for now, that's all I got. Go Pack.
Yep, go Pack.